Thank you for coming back. Thank you for coming back to a place where I think we have the challenging conversations, those conversations that people just often won't have, and a place actually where you can hear an American Muslim patriot, somebody who loves his country and loves his faith and feels that the Islamist problem is one that only Muslims can solve, and it is about time. It is over time that we haven't done anything about it. And week to week, I try to find those issues that represent the obstacles, that represent the areas that we need to work hard to fix in the American Muslim community, in the American Muslim identity. And wow, I'm scheduled this week to speak in a few days to Duke University students for an event sponsored by Duke College Republicans, Young Americans for Liberty. And actually, the Alexander Hamilton Society had been sponsoring it, and they pulled out now. And always love speaking to university students. Obviously, I am a product of the American university system, public education. Went to University of Wisconsin and the Medical College of Wisconsin on a Navy scholarship. And I think ultimately those minds that have the time to sit down and engage the issues that few will, that have the courage, the critical thinking to address those topics that few will ask the questions of. And, the belief in my faith, I solidified at that age, 14, 15, 17, 20, in which I was asking questions about whether God existed, whether the Quran was the word of God, its authenticity. And I asked the tough questions of my faith, and after I intellectually looked at everything, came down as a strong believer in Islam, a strong believer in this country, and I was stronger for it. So I think it was my time in universities learning this and addressing this that created the person that's before you. And yet now in today's university settings, it's almost as if we are so worried about triggers. We're so worried about bullying. And yes, we don't want people to feel bullied. In fact, they should have a space in which they can voice their disagreements and voice real diversity, not based on skin-deep identity. Yes, we should do everything to put out the purge, to purge out the ideas of racism, fascism, intolerance. That has no place in a democracy. No place. But also, equally, there's no place for intolerance of oppression against those who disagree with you. Oppression of those who believe that theocracy is not the way for Muslims, who believe that we Muslims deserve some tough love, that need to be held accountable for our ideas. I tell you all this because who would have thought? The title of my talk for Duke University was The American Muslim Identity, Patriot or Insurgent. Very similar to topics I've had before that talk about Americanism versus Islamism, that talk about, heck, you look at there have been books written, good Muslim versus bad Muslim. And yet, I guess that was a trigger. They were triggered by the Muslim Student Association at Duke was triggered by the binary question. Didn't even care to wait to hear what I was going to talk about, but they triggered and then put the fear of God into the rest of and many of the population at Duke and others. You see the newspaper then coming out with just a bizarrely hypocritical editorial. Didn't even have one quotation from me. And for a group that's concerned about titling, has a completely charged, triggering title called Fear and Loathing in the Bull City. Fear and Loathing. Basically targeting its own university, bringing back citations of racism era and other things in the South, and just unbelievable, bizarre juxtapositions of unrelated things in history. Now listen, I'm all for debate. I'm all for listening to folks who may disagree with me. And they recommended at the end of their piece that, there should have been a panel of discussion. There are opportunities for that.